Talk about spirit. Man, how do you follow that? First of all, aloha.
Aloha.
It's so wonderful to be back. Thank you for having me. Joanna, thank you. Good to see you, everyone. First things first, I want to say thank you all for the wonderful prayers and thinking about me and my family this last year, and which makes it even more poignant to be here today, because to be among family and to be with one, as Guy just reminded us, the power of one. So much aloha to all of you. Thank you for being here. Yeah? I also want to give a shout out to Alethea over here, because I tell you what, we never talk on the phone, but every time we get together and I speak, she comes up with the music which is like right on. It's just spot on. In fact, thank you. It's like definitely the spirit's moving, because the song you did earlier, Aloha was a big inspiration for me. In fact, some of the things I'm sharing with you today. In fact, I'm going to mention her again, Auntie Pilahi Vaki, because that song was written by her. It was music by Jay Laren. He wrote the music. And of course, Brother Mo Keale did the song. So mahalo to them. But you'll see in a few minutes when I start the presentation. But Joanna, thank you again for inviting me. A couple weeks ago, I got the privilege of speaking at Happiness U. And they asked me to speak about aloha. And really the way of aloha. And it's quite timely given some of the things that are going on, around us in the world. Not just here in Hawaii, but our country and elsewhere, where it seems to be some challenges. Some of us may be doing things that may not be in proper alignment, right? And so the way of aloha is really about that. But let me start with this. Let me get my big head out of the way. Yeah, see there. Do you recognize that guy? Yeah, let me see this here. Ta-da! See, yeah. Yeah, it's not a shadow, it was the intention, right? But the way of aloha, to live aloha, be aloha, and share aloha, because actually that was one of the deepest messages, that Auntie Pilahi had to share with those of us that were fortunate to spend time with her. And so this morning I will be edifying some of those things. But what's important about this image is that this was taken on the morning of the summer solstice, just passed. And the longest day, they say. But it was also a time when it showed us that regardless of how dark you may think it is, the sun will rise again. And I'll tell you, when I was sitting on that beach or standing on the beach with some of my students, it was just a reminder, right? That sometimes you can just look behind that shadow, look behind that cloud, and there's light. The reminder is that light comes from within. The darkness is really the absence of light. And the absence of aloha can create darkness. And so the opportunity for us is to bring aloha with us wherever we go. And so, Joanna, mahalo for us for allowing me to be here. But so, like I said in the song, aloha this is the second verse of the song. And as I stood there looking at this, I was reminded by what Auntie Pilahi had to say. Aloha is the sunlight shining through the darkness, giving us strength in all that we do. And it's such a powerful thing, because prior to her transition in 1985, she and I sat, and she was concerned that someday we would lose aloha. Not from the fact that we're using it. It would be used, but she was concerned that its meaning, its depth, its spiritual concepts would be lost because we've commercialized it. We've commodified it. We've done all these other things to aloha. And it was then that I suggested to her that I'd made my promise. In the song, The Promise of Aloha, I promised her that I would do whatever I could do to continue to advocate and share aloha and the concepts and training that she provided all of us. So thank you again for allowing me to continue and live up to that promise. And so Pilahi's words were impactful. They really kind of reached deep down for me inside, because they were really words that spoke about principle. Now, I understand you're going through some reading right now and some concepts, and I was told that principle happens to be one of them. So I think there's a good alignment here, but aloha as a principle and not just a value, but the principle that is given to us and guided by the principle, right? When you get called to the principal's office, hopefully you're living by your principles. Otherwise, you'll find out what happens, right? But the principle of aloha is what's key to this. And I say that because today it's too often and too easy to get lost by following personalities, where personalities begin to guide our decision making. And we begin to follow personalities and practices that are outside of ourselves rather than living by principle. And I'd like to suggest that when we live by our principles, our practices also follow in a positive way. I think many of us can think of a personality that may be driving much of our conversation, many of our practices, and some of us are having difficulty finding the balance between the personalities and the principles. But I would suggest, as Auntie Pillai said, to look within to find aloha, to live by that principle of aloha at all times, regardless of what's going on outside of us, those externalities. Because aloha is more than what's outside. It's more than a greeting. You know, we come to the islands, and oftentimes you go to some of our authentic commercial luau's. Explain that to the next guy. Or you get on one of the buses and we welcome our visitors. Of course, aloha is the word, but we tend to go, aloha, right? And what is everyone supposed to do? Yeah, it's like when I was driving through the West, you know, going through the plains, and I see the cows, and we all roll the window down and go, moo. And the cows look at us like, what? Are we supposed to go moo back? And yet we do it, right? But it's interesting because aloha is more than just that greeting. In fact, when was the last time you answered your phone like this? Hello? Goodbye. No, why do we do that to aloha, right? Because aloha is really a much deeper thing, right? It is the spirit and the giving, or the spirit and the science of giving and receiving, not taking. You give and you receive, just like breathing. The concept of ha. Everyone take a deep breath. Hold it, hold it. Now you can have it. I don't want it. See, eventually you got to give it back, right? You can't take it with you. Now we say, I will take a breath. But the reality is you can't take it anywhere, right? You receive it and you give it back. The foundation of aloha. It's about giving and receiving. When you're in that flow, life happens. It's when you hold on to stuff and you don't let it go. That's when you get tight. That's when things start to break down. And so aloha is that. It's to give and not expect anything in return. To give freely. Remember that when you have something, you have the opportunity to give back. That's not always. But when you find yourself in a position when someone else is in need, it's not always waiting for it to be asked, but to see the opportunity to extend oneself. This notion of extension. Expand others and you expand. Extend yourself and we all extend. This is aloha, the way of aloha, the way of being. And so I'd like to suggest that there are two faces of aloha, the concepts of giving and receiving. Everyone say aloha aku. Yeah, aloha aku is the aloha that's moving away from it. Aku is going that way, right? Hele aku, let's go. Outside the door, right? Everyone say aloha mai. Yeah, so that's aloha that's coming in. So there's aloha aku and aloha mai. It goes out and it comes in. Interesting enough, the ocean does the same thing. It goes out and comes in. The wind goes, it comes back. In fact, it's so warm in here, let's stagger the breathing. All right? You guys breathe first, you breathe second, and the wind will come right through the window, right? See, we're all in alignment with nature, right? But it is about giving and receiving. And so, aloha aku, aloha mai, but these two faces, in order for them to be whole, must come together, right? So the reminder is that aloha is about making people whole, leaving places better than when we found them, leaving others better than we find them. And when we come nose to nose, heart to heart, mind to mind, we're saying to one another, when I say aloha, it's a commitment. It's a commitment to you. It's a commitment to those around us. It says that your air is my air. My air is your air. And if I damage your air, I damage my air. And therefore, it doesn't help me to damage your air. Right? If I want to be whole, make you whole, that makes us whole. That's a community. That's unity. That's working together, right? It says that when I'm this close, that's trust. To be in the face of someone else, in the heart to heart, mind to mind, right? Arm to arm. That is the spirit of aloha. Imagine if we could all live that way, to have that level of trust that when we say that to one another, I know what you mean and I mean what you say, all right? Now, if you can't say aloha with that kind of commitment, just say hi. Because there's no commitment in hi. It's like, how's it? How are you? How you doing? See you later. But when you say aloha, ooh, watch out. Because aloha is a commitment, right? It's a deep commitment to protect, preserve, and honor those that are with us. Because there's mana. There's energy in aloha. There's energy in our words. Energy in our thoughts. Auntie Palahi would say, the seeds of thought are watered by the emotions of heart. And so be careful, for when you speak, those words are given life on the life-giving breath of Ha that leaves your lungs and crosses the pathway of your teeth. And whatever comes out is manifested in the world around us, and you can't bring it back. So guard your thoughts, guard your emotions, but by all means, guard your words and your behaviors. That is what aloha is. And if you're always operating with aloha, then hopefully those seeds of thought and those of water, the water and emotions of heart are always pure and they're always clean. So the mana of aloha. Mana is also about balance. In fact, some of you may remember, those that have been here, but for those that weren't, do this with me. Put your left hand out, please, and say ma. Ma is passive, soft, feminine, inside. It's the minus sign on the battery, if you would. All right? Right hand out and say na. Na is masculine, positive, active. It moves out. Na goes out, ma comes in. Na stands up, ma sits down. Does that make sense? Everybody go ma, na, put it together. Mana. Yeah? And that mana, that balancing of plus and minus, up and down, in and out, soft and hard, it's all of those things. So one clap, everybody go mana. Two clap, 2, 3. Keep it going. Let's make some mana. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. You're just so kind. Mahalo, mahalo. Yeah, that mana, it's a powerful thing. But mana, I just concept these opposite energies, right? Not so much that they're wrong or right, but they work together in harmony. As in the song Aloha is harmony. And how do you find harmony? This is when you're vibrating at all these levels. It isn't about pushing too much ma or too much na. It's about finding a balance, kind of like a tire. It needs to be soft enough to roll, but hard enough to hold the car up, right? Enough pressure on the inside, but enough to be resilient and responsive. That's aloha. Too much, blow up the tire. Not enough, flat bugger. Not going anywhere, all right? But it's finding that right balance between the plus and the minus, the in and the out. That's aloha. And when we talk about balance, we're saying that balance of what? As I said earlier, some of us are having difficulty finding balance in a world of uncertainty, it seems. And oftentimes it's because we're looking outside of ourselves for that certainty, whatever it is. But when we have that internal compass, something we can look internal into, then it doesn't matter where we are because we can't be lost, because we have a source that we can look to, something that is constant within us. And I like to suggest that is aloha. Right? But it is also suggesting that it's understanding the balance, the alignment between head and heart. In our song, again, we talk about the unity of mind and heart, mind and spirit. Auntie Palahi was on it, wasn't she? I mean, she really had it, right? Because, I think today we are finding ourselves really in this disconnection between the head, a lot of thinking going on, but not so much feeling when we think about this. And then there's a lot of feeling going on without so much thinking. And all of a sudden we have a war of emotions and thoughts, when in reality they have to work together, right? There's an alignment between head and heart. In fact, right now, some of us are experiencing this thing called kapu aloha. Everyone say kapu aloha. Yeah, kapu is really the kapu. It's like the law, the way of being. It is the way, if you would, of what? Of aloha. It says respect. Kapu is respect. Honor. Do these things, behave this way. That is the way of aloha. And one of the things that has brought that to the surface is that on a mountain somewhere, we have this conflict going on. Not just on the mountain, but it's happening in our communities. It's happening on our continents. It's happening everywhere. It just happens to be alive and well right in front of us. So what I'd like to suggest is that while I looked at it, I had some friends from the continent, the mainland. They call me, Ramsay, what do you think about this? And I said, well, this is how I feel about it. You hear the difference? Have you ever asked somebody, what do you think? They say, well, how do you feel? Then go, let me think about that. No, I ask you how you feel. Let me think about that. And so there's an interesting dichotomy there. We kind of get lost in that. I'd like to suggest what I've seen without picking sides, but recognizing that I think what's going on in the world around us is that you have a brain asking the heart to feel. And then you have a heart asking the brain to feel. I said the brain asking the heart to think, right? And the heart asking the brain to feel. These are two things those organs don't do, right? They don't do that very well. That's why they need one another. There needs to be a better alignment in the same way that this is aligned. But unfortunately, we live in a world that looks at it mind over matter. Just the diagram itself puts the brain over the heart. I'm better than you because I'm higher than you. Yeah? This order, maybe that is out of order. In fact, I know that I get alignment when I lie down. So you lie down, the head and the heart, even, same kind, right? So every time you're out of sync, lie down. Everything goes with me. Perfect alignment. Right? I think that's why we sleep lying down, not standing up. Right? But the object is, how do we find alignment? I like to offer, and not to say that there aren't issues, there are a number of issues, but to unpack all of them, I'd like to suggest that maybe it's just an alignment issue. And maybe when we start realigning things and actually begin to understand where our issues are coming from. For instance, I would suggest that most of us here are the products of or used practices that were born out of this age, the industrial age. Would you be saying that's safe to say? Yeah? We're products. Now, we got all kinds of stuff, cell phones, and all, but it's still products of an industrial age and a way of being. Now, as a result of the industrial age, when we see a problem, and what do we do when we see a problem? What do we want to do? Very good. That's the word, fix, right? We want to fix it. And who is going to fix our problem? What do we call those guys? Mechanics. Okay? Yeah, so we live in a world with problems, and we tend to make a mechanical decision or mechanical fix for whatever it is. Even the things that feel bad, we look for a mechanical response. That's kind of interesting, right? I'd like to suggest that we're kind of now in that point where we're transitioning from an industrial age to a spiritual age, right? Now, in a spiritual age, when we have a spiritual issue or a spiritual problem, is it likely that a mechanical or mechanic or a mechanical fix will find a solution? Now, perhaps the spiritual age says, let's look for some meaning rather than mechanics. And maybe we can start looking for healing rather than fixing. What's going on around us isn't going to get to the next place by more mechanics looking to fix things. Ho'oponopono, as many of you have heard, is the concept of making things right, not fixing old things, but creating new conditions. What's the new condition that allows us to be? And I'd like to suggest the fuel for that new condition is aloha. The way of aloha. As Auntie Pillai said, one day the world will come and look to Hawaii for healing. And that healing is going to come from aloha. And so I think that's where we are. And so we're having an opportunity to share and learn about these things. So the way of aloha then is really about that. The way of aloha, it's the way of being. The way of being, of behaving. I have the fortune of speaking to different people in different places. And oftentimes they come up to me after and says, we kind of want that. We want what you're talking about. I said, and what is that? And after talking, I sense this longing. Their definition is that they're longing to be longing. They're longing to be somebody. They're longing to be part of something greater themselves. They want to belong. And unfortunately, in the world of mechanics, we're looking for belongings in order to give us belonging, right? Whatever phone, whatever car, whatever it gives us membership to something that perhaps we lost. And we are looking to the mechanical, the external things to provide us with some comfort internally. Aloha is the way of behaving internally. It says that we don't think ourselves into new ways of behaving, but it says we behave ourselves into new ways of thinking. In other words, as it was said earlier, to act with aloha, not just think with aloha. A lot of us think about it, but very few of us actually act on it. I can think about going to church today, but I can get up and actually go. There's a difference, all right? To think it versus acting. In fact, let me go back. This brother here is sitting on the shore with his net and going, oh, that's a big fish. I think if I catch them, I can eat them. And I think if I catch plenty, I can feed my family. I think I've been here a long time. I better go home. And so all the thinking he's done caught him 0 fish. But it wasn't until his brother cast his net and threw it, he took some act. He stopped thinking a long time ago. At some point in time, we have to act. And in the act of doing things, we begin to start the process. It is action. Aloha is action. Aloha is behaving a certain way. But really to understand, I call upon Auntie Pilahi again. So this is what she was telling us back then. The way of aloha. Before you can have aloha, you must do aloha. You must show it. You must act somehow. All right? Before you can be aloha, you must choose it. Now, interesting enough, there are a lot of people in the world who don't have a sense of choice. They feel like they don't have any choices. They're required to do certain things. How do we support that? How do we find out that we are deserving enough to make these choices for ourselves rather than other people making the choices for us? Because when we don't do that, aren't we really inviting victimhood? When we rely on other people to do stuff for us or change? For us, some of you have done this with me, but for those of you who haven't, join in. Say this after me. What is it about me that allows me to see in you what bugs me? About you. Think about that. All right? What is it about me that allows me to see in you what bugs me about you? Now do that like this. What we're really saying is, what is it about me? What have I brought to a situation that is experiencing the sounds, the sights, the smells, the people around me that causes me to react the way I do? Whether it's fear, anxiety, run or hide, whatever. What is it about me? Because the next guy next to me is not acting the same way, right? He's not reacting to this stuff in the same way I am. So is it really about that or is it really about me? When we are all operating from aloha, I think things begin to shift. It's a very different thing. As Guy reminded us, the power of one when we start looking at it. In fact, let's do this. Everyone say this with me. I am, and then your first name. Ready, go. One more time. Yeah, see, interesting. When we're all I am, everything's in unison. Once we throw in the name, kapakahi. Right? One more time. Yeah. Yeah. See, once the personalities come out, all of a sudden the room just goes, ah. But when we're focused on I am, now I can talk eye to eye, not Ralph to Ramsey. Right? So it's when we find that unison, that unity and harmonizing of the I am in each of us, all of a sudden the aloha begins to flow. It's when the personalities take over. That's when we have pilikia. All right? So the object is, how do we move to that point? But before you can have the power to choose, you must know the source of power, be the source of power. And the source of power must be a consciousness. Everyone say, no'o. Hanoho, no'o. No'o is an awareness, a consciousness. And to have that no'o, to be aware of the source. Well, interesting enough, it means it's an inside job, right? It's all inside. Not outside, but inside. That source is within us. And how do we find that? And how do we connect to that? What's that constant? To be able to say that I know who I am. I will always be my father's son. Today, I happen to be a speaker. But I'll always be my parents' son. I will always be my daughter's father. I will always be my wife's husband. That's who I am. What I do, that's different. But who I am, that's another thing. And hopefully we can say we are always aloha. And it is in that aloha that the queen, Liliuokalani, stated this. And I want to just take a look at it, the yellow in particular. To gain the kingdom of heaven is to hear what is not said, see what cannot be seen. And here's the big one. To know the unknowable. To know the unknowable. That's powerful, right? I mean, who's going to walk? I know everything. I know the unknowable. That's a pretty bold statement. But I'd like to suggest what the queen was saying, and later what Pilahi was saying, by repeating what the queen said, was this. If you know the source, if you connect with the source, if you know God, you know the unknowable. Why? Because she is all-knowing. The power of aloha is to know the unknowable, to be connected to that thing greater than us. The spirit of aloha, it is a law. And aloha is broken down into those words, but the words are behaviors. That's not what's important. I mean, values on the left. What's important are the behaviors. How we behave, how we express the value is really the power of aloha. Not the words we use, but the actions that I engage in. That's the power. And what we also understand about this language is that when you utter the sounds of aloha, or you utter the sounds of olelo Hawaii, you're calling upon the spirit, the energy in those words. In each letter, each sound, there is fire, air, earth, water, spirit. And anytime you utter those sounds with intention, you call forth those energies, those spirits. So the spirit of aloha is not just aloha, but the spirit of aloha. Let's take the first word. We won't go through all of them, just an example. Akahai, the value, akahai. This is to be expressed with kindness, right? It isn't necessarily kindness, it's the expression of kindness. Everyone say akahai. Mahalo. Now, let's take it a different way. When you break it down with spirit in mind, everyone say aka, ha, I, akahai. Akahai. Aka means shadow. It also means a string, like a web. It's what connects you and me, like a spider's web. But aka is also shadow and or mirror. So aka ha, the breath of life that comes from I am, the divine breath. Akahai says to mirror, to shadow, to be connected with the divine breath of God. Now imagine, if you live like that, how can you be anything but kind? Yeah? The kindness comes from within just by following the breath, the spirit, and the essence of divinity. That's the power of aloha. And every single one of those words has that spirit built in. All we need to do is receive it. To give it and receive it. That's the power of aloha. Right? One thing I'd like to comment, I didn't say this earlier, but I think it's important. Many of us have been trying to teach people aloha. We want to teach aloha. What does that look like? Is it a handshake? All right. Yeah. 5 handshakes, 5 pats on the back, 10 smiles, 25 shakas. What is it? Those are behaviors, granted, but I'd like to suggest the spirit of aloha is not. Right? It's something else. In fact, how many of you remember the day when your grandmother made chocolate chip cookies? You guys like chocolate chip cookies? Peanut butter cookies? Whatever it is. Walk into the house and you smell the cookies. Go back to that moment right now. What's happening? Right? You walk in, it's like, ooh, cookies. Right? What's going on? Anyone? When you smell that, what's going on? Yeah, you feel good, right? All of the memories start popping up, right? I'd like to suggest that smell that's in the room, that's spirit. That's the aloha spirit. So where's the aloha? In the oven. Right? Aloha is the cookie, and the cookie's in the oven. But the spirit is floating around in the room. And whatever you bring to the room, it brings out of you, right? How do I know? Because I can go to Walmart or anybody and buy one box of chocolate chip cookies. No smell. Right? I won't have the same connection. The spirit's not there. We can manufacture cookies all day long, but we don't manufacture the smell. Right? The spirit. So the cautionary note is, let's not teach one another how to make aloha. But let's be aloha. Let's live aloha. And let's share aloha. Let's create the spirit. So anytime I walk in the room, I don't have to eat the cookie to get the essence of who you are. Yeah? That's the power of aloha. And so mahalo to Auntie Pillai, because really what we're saying is there's a balance of these tensions. And I mentioned it earlier, transactions versus relationships, accounting versus accountability, belonging versus belongings, people versus things. Right? Aloha is people. It's not these other things. At some point in time, it's about people. It's not the hale, it's not the house, it's not the building, it's not the truck, it's the people in it. And at some point in time, we must honor the people and our relationships. Not the transactions between those people, but the relationships. Right? Because that's what counts. That's what gives us identity. At the end of the day, when the money is gone, the manna comes out. Right? It's the manna, not the money. It's the relationships, not the transactions. And so aloha, the way of aloha is about that. is recognizing that at some point in time, it's not about chasing any more mechanics. It's really about looking for deeper meaning. And I think most of us at this time are looking for meaningful relationships, things that give us identity. So regardless of where we are in the world, we're never lost because we know where we belong, right? The power of Aloha will give us that opportunity. In fact, you can help me with it. There's a continental world thought. Finish it for me. I think? Yeah, that's right. So it's all a mind thing. I woke up this morning, thought I was 6'2". I am now that I'm standing on the box. But got in the car, I was like, no, not there yet. But I knew who I was. Because in Hawaii, the island worldview says, hey, Hawaii, I am Hawaii. I am this place. She eats me, I eat her. The reciprocity agreement of my ancestors to my grandchildren. We are connected. We're all part of this together. We are all islanders because we live on the island called Earth. The reciprocity of giving and receiving, ha, in, ha, out. That's what it means. And so for us, it's not what I think that gives me belonging, but I belong, therefore I am. I know who I belong to. I know where I belong. I have a culture, a concept, a principle, a belief. Those things give me meaning. I may be somewhere in the world, don't know where I am, but I know where I belong. Consequently, I'm not lost. That internal compass of Aloha that helps us understand, to create a safe place. Aloha is a place where people can be authentic, creative, enabling others, but more above all, to be safe. Are we safe? Can you find a safe place inside you? Because if you're safe, others will find sanctuary with you. A safe man is a safe family. A safe family is a safe home. A safe home is a safe community. Our objective is to find safety. And in safety, we find creativity. We find empowerment. We find health. This is the power of Aloha, the way of Aloha. But in order to find that, we have to have trust. Trust in ourselves, trust in one another, and trust in those that we walk the roads with. Can we find that trust? And interesting enough, when you take that word trust, underlying all that is about being truthful. What is true? Can I believe it? When you say it, can I believe it? I mean what I say what I mean. The word for true or truth is oya i'o. Everyone say oya i'o. Hanoho, oya i'o. Yeah, see, oya i'o is a palindrome, English term, Hawaiian word, right? Oya i'o. Look, either way, it's the same word, yeah? Just like Bob, Dad, Mom, right? Constant. True means when I'm in the room with you, you can trust that when I say about you now is what I say about you out there. That's trust, not something else. Like oya i'o is true in, true out, right? My outside is my inside. The other word for that? Integrity. Simple, right? Do we have integrity? And do I have the unity of mind and heart that allows me to have the integrity that allows you to trust me, right? That's the way of Aloha. Oh, Aloha. Aloha, however, is not always warm and fuzzy. Oftentimes we think, oh, Aloha says, yeah, step on my toe, that's fine. Aloha, thank you. Hit me in the head. Oh, mahalo, thank you for that. Aloha, right? No. There are consequences to poor behavior, right? Don't mistake kindness or patience for weakness, right? Aloha is much larger than that. If I see a child running in the street, I'll have to go and grab them. It may look rough, but it'll be rough if I don't, right? Aloha means that we need to know there are consequences for our behavior. And if you don't act properly, you will need to live up to those consequences. So the way of Aloha is about balance. It's not just always being, hi, hello, how are you? But sometimes it means putting your foot down and says, we teach people how to treat us, and that just hurt, right? Aloha you, aloha me. That's the power of Aloha, is to be able to say that we agree to disagree without being disagreeable. Isn't that wonderful? Yeah. So in the end, what it comes down to is how do we measure what that looks like? When we shift the metrics of a world and success than the ones that we do today, which may be strictly about money, right? Is there another way? I'd suggest this. When my grandmother, I'd go to her house, I'd knock on the door, I hear her in the back, hooey, mai, come inside. When I walked in the door, she never asked me how I was. She always asked me, you hungry? Did you eat? Sit down, right? 2 hours later, she's asking me, are you hungry? You want some? No. I'm done. Piha. She goes, okay, you sure? Yeah. Take some home with you. Always giving, always extending, because it wasn't about her. It was about those she fed. So imagine if we lived in a world where our new metric asked a different question. Did you eat today? Did everyone eat today? Is everyone full? Is everyone satisfied? Is everyone housed? Is everyone jobbed? Whatever. If the answer is yes, maybe we've adopted principles and practices of Aloha that says the highest order is for people to be whole, to be full, right? To be loved and to belong. What the power of that? Who doesn't want to live in a world like that, right? And yet to have enough Aloha to recognize that even in a world without it, we can still try. We can still help others get there. That's the way of Aloha. So our next steps really to say thank you again for allowing me to be here and to share with you and to feel your Aloha is really this. Live Aloha, share Aloha, and be Aloha. And by all means, be grateful that we have it. Aloha, 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 mahalo, mahalo, mahalo. Thank you. Ahui o. Mahalo.